Some South Africans are using illegal immigration as an excuse for stealing and looting from shops. And here's why. So statistically speaking, and this is from the South African Immigration Report, it states that about 3 million immigrants are in the country. 3 million. Now, if you just take a look at 3 million, in your head, you'll be thinking, wow, that is a lot of people. And that's true. But you know what 3 million immigrants as a percentage is in South Africa? It's only 5%. 5%. Now, let's take a look at the unemployment figures. Well, according to my research here, 35% of South Africans are unemployed. So just using that alone, you can actually see that this immigrants are taking our jobs does not even work. Just using these two figures, you would need way more immigrants for this statement to qualify. So the question now is there a problem? I'm not sitting here suggesting that there's no problem. And before I even continue, I want to make it very clear that this video, when I say South Africans, I don't mean every single South African. No, I am addressing the ones that are unemployed and suggesting that their jobs are being taken. The other 65%, no, we're good, we're cool. I'm not talking about you. So please don't feel that I'm including you in what we're discussing here. And to be honest, I don't think all South Africans have this attitude towards migrants. No, I don't believe that. It's only that small number of people that are out there to be opportunists. They want to go and loot, find an excuse to destroy people's lives. But in actual fact, they're doing it out of hatred, and they're doing it because it's criminal. Okay? So here's the thing. So let's go back to those figures. 35% unemployment, 5% is the number of migrants in the country. So that in itself clearly states that, you know what? That statement that migrants are taking all the jobs is not true. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that there's no issue. No, there is an issue, because what happens is when you look at all these migrants, the 3 million of them, some are going to be undocumented. Okay? Some are going to have papers. That's a fact. So what normally happens in this type of situation is when employers are employing people in a certain area or a certain industry, what they tend to do is, as a business, I would probably even do the same thing. It's just business economics. The cheaper the labor, of course, your profits are going to, become better. So what happens now is some of the local South Africans may not be chosen for the job because they're probably charging, let's say, $5 per hour, but someone who's undocumented is willing to work at half that price. That's a fact. So those people now who are not chosen for the job may look at the undocumented person and say, you know what? This is so frustrating. You're taking the job. But not all jobs are taken this way. Now, it may seem like I'm just addressing Zimbabweans, but this applies everywhere. Somalians, Nigerians, Ghanaians, and so on. These people in South Africa, these migrants, they are creating jobs. They are in informal businesses. They have hair salons. They have, small grocery stores and so on. That is not taking anyone's job. Why don't you, the unemployed or the people that I'm referring to, these South Africans, why don't you set up your own shop? Why don't you set up your own shop? Well, your argument is, why don't you set up the shop in your own country? And that's a fair point too. So the situation, and I'll speak for Zimbabwe in this regard. The situation with Zimbabwe is the country is rebuilding, but from a very, very weak position. We have our own issues in our country, the way we dealt with the land situation and so on. It wasn't very advantageous in the long run for us economically in terms of relationships as well with the rest of the world. So we were sidelined and we had to build from the ground up, but from a weaker position. Right now, the economy of Zimbabwe is growing. The economy of Zimbabwe right now is growing. I mean, do your research. It doesn't mean that Zimbabwe is dead. So when people say go and fix your country, the country has actually survived under very tough conditions. So a lot of the Zimbabweans in South Africa right now, in my opinion, and this is what I'm thinking, there's that fear of the unknown when you go back to your country. Plus, there's a lot of other factors, and these factors are a lot of Zimbabweans have invested so much in South Africa. They've bought properties. Their children are going to school there. They've set up so much stuff there. So to just up and leave and up and go is not as straightforward. So can these Zimbabweans now who are being chased away survive in Zimbabwe? I believe so. I've made a few videos before where I talk about just the remittances. Forget everything else, just the remittances. It's in the billions every year. In the billions. That alone, if a lot of the Zimbabweans who are being kicked out actually sit down with a positive mindset and think of setting up something in Zimbabwe, I am pretty sure that they will make it. But it's one of those situations where there's a lack of confidence and the fear of unknown, because if you have left a country, let's say 10 years ago, to then think about going into Zimbabwe and starting something, it's a very scary situation. So go and fix your country. The country right now is growing. Economically, go and Google it. The economy of Zimbabwe right now, I could even go as far as saying it's growing more than South Africa. But I'm not saying Zimbabwe's economy is bigger than South Africa. Of course, South Africa is a massive economy. And talking about economy, who actually runs this economy in South Africa? Who? It's the white South Africans. Even in terms of land, the black people in South Africa only own 4% of the land. About 72 or 70% is owned by white people. So those industries that you're supposed to be building, are you building those industries in South Africa? I don't think so. Because property and land, shares in companies, pension funds, banks and investments, mining and industry, all those sectors are owned by the white South Africans. So this 35%, what are you doing? I mean, what have you created in the economy of South Africa? Really, let's be honest. What have you created? In my opinion, this is a situation where there's a lot of resentment, there's a lot of jealousy, and there's a lot of criminality. This is what it is. Because from my first statement, 5% of immigrants, how are they taking jobs where there's 35% unemployed? How is that even possible? It's impossible. So yes, it may seem like Zimbabwe is a messed country, go and fix it and so on. I think you need to separate real issues and not just blanket every single one of them. This is why I'm saying this is very criminal of those South Africans that are marching on the street, attacking people, taking people's shops, property, and all of that. Because now you have taken the law into your own hands. If you have a problem with immigration, right, which I mentioned earlier on, that I acknowledge that if companies are employing people who are undocumented, they're going to undercharge them, right? They're going to underpay them, And that's a fact. And that can be a problem. But that can be easily addressed by going to the institute that is supposed to be producing these documents. So if there are no undocumented, if there's undocumented people, then the government should be dealing with that. Not you, the average person on the street. Why don't you go to the government and say, hey, this is the issue that we have in our community, and take them to account, put them to account of not resolving the the undocumented people. That's number one. Number two, this started off as illegal immigrants, right? But now it's every single person, even the one who has papers. You are now attacking them. You want to take their things that they've worked for. Why? Because they need to go back to their country. This is beyond the issue of taking jobs. This is some serious hatred towards your fellow African people. And I'm telling you right now, if you're someone that is balanced, look at yourself in the mirror and look at the inequality in your country and try and solve that. I'm willing to see you go to the white South Africans who have developed and built the country and tell them to go and leave and go back to their own country. Go and try that with the white South Africans and see what happens. Just go and try that and see. And you know you can't even do that. So what do? You go create this fake narrative of our jobs are being taken. It's an excuse to practice your criminality. That's what you're doing. That's an excuse to practice your criminality because you're going to loot. Right now, I won't be even surprised that the looting is going to happen. It won't even surprise me because that's where it's going. The looting is going to happen. You're going to be beating up people, unaliving them to justify something that is clearly not even an issue in this case. There are Zimbabweans in South Africa who have their right papers, who are working, who have very good jobs, who are in high positions. They're there, but you don't want them because you're saying they're taking your jobs. Now you, the 35% that I'm talking about, what qualifications do you have and what jobs are being taken? I'd like to hear it. Comment in the comments box below. What jobs are being taken? You'll find that the jobs you're talking about, they're not even highly skilled jobs for the most part because you don't have the highly skilled jobs. The 65% who are employed are the ones that have the highly skilled jobs and they're working really well. And they are not the ones who are attacking the Nigerians, the Somalians, the Zimbabweans, the Malawians, the Mozambicans. No, they're not. It's you. That small group. And even in that unemployment group, the people who are marching and causing problems, it's even a very small percentage. So it's that little minority that is causing the problems. Yes, one day we are going to look back and say, you know what? Yes, we lived in South Africa. This was the situation, but I just pray that Zimbabweans have the confidence and the boldness of going on the ground and starting something and just leave South Africa. I don't think this is the time to be hopeless and feel like the life has ended. No, it's starting on a new page. And there's a lot of factors that are scaring people from not going back home. We have our own issues, which I discussed in the last video, which make people scared of wanting to start. But you know what? It's okay. It's okay. But do not make claims that don't even make sense. The unemployment is very high. The people who are supposed to be accountable is the government. Why are you not putting people to account for not creating jobs? Your jobs that you are qualified to do. Why are you at the 35% unemployment rate? That's the question you're supposed to be asking because clearly it is not the immigrants that have taken all the jobs. That's a lie. And I'm yet to hear or to see someone who can dispute these facts. I'm yet to see that in the comments box. So the question really is, why is the economy failing to create enough proper jobs for South Africans? That's the question. And the people who are responsible for answering that is your government. If the immigration is lacking, do you know who's supposed to be responsible for that? Your immigration department. But you have taken the law into your own hands based on lies, fabricated facts. If there are criminals, and I'm not saying there's no criminals amongst the Zimbabwean immigrants or Nigerians or whatever it is. Yes, criminals are everywhere. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of criminals there. But it's not every single migrant that's a criminal. The criminals need to be dealt with according to the country's laws and rules. If someone steals or someone sells anything they're not supposed to be selling, they should be prosecuted. And if they don't, then you should have a problem with the police department. The Justice Department is what you need to be protesting against. Not directly taking the law into your own hands. This is an excuse for criminality. This is an excuse for you to practice what you want to practice. And you know what? Some of you are they don't even fear unaliving someone. And that to me is very disturbing. Imagine destroying someone's life because you believe that your job is taken. I don't know what type of human being does that.